Hey friends! In today's video, I'm going to show you how I make my sourdough sandwich loaf, which is actually very similar to how I make my regular sourdough, like round sourdough loaf, with two little tweaks, one being an ingredient and the other just being the shaping. This is a super easy recipe, an overnight recipe, very hands-off. I think that's all I have to say for this intro, so let's just get on into the baking. It is almost 1 p.m. and I'm gonna mix tonight and bake tomorrow morning, so I need to feed my starter. So to do that, our starter's actually pretty bubbly right now because I fed it last night, but I'm still gonna discard and feed. I'm gonna go ahead and feed it probably like 120-ish grams of water and 120-ish grams of flour. I just filled up my rookie, so there's like no filtered water in it. So let's see how much filtered water we have. Perfect. 145. I'll take it. And then today I'm just gonna feed King Arthur all-purpose. I do have some rye flour that I've been feeding it like once a week or so. I'll do like an 80-20 blend of all-purpose and rye flour, just because it adds another little layer of flavor. But today I'm just gonna add all-purpose. And now I'm just gonna mix it up with a butter knife. Like a really thick pancake batter, right? Is that what that looks like to you? That's what it looks like to me. So now I'm just gonna cover it with the lid, literally just like that. Not gonna screw it on, nothing. And I'm gonna put it under or on the stove with the light on because it's generally a little bit warmer with the light on. And I'll see it in like 6 hours. It is almost 8 p.m. So it's been about 7 hours since I fed my starter, and it is nice and bubbly, as you can see from the outside. Very thick and nice and bubbly. So before we mix, the first thing that we need to do is actually measure out some water, because I'm gonna heat up the water a little bit in the microwave, because technically I'm supposed to have my water and my milk at room temperature, but I didn't do that. So I'm gonna heat up the water a little bit and then add the cold milk, and hopefully that'll bring it to like kind of a room temperature type situation. So I need 200 grams of water. Now I'm just gonna microwave this for like maybe 20 seconds. And now I'm gonna add 100 grams of whole milk. Now that that is all sorted, we're gonna weigh out our starter. So I'm gonna do 160 grams of bubbly sourdough starter. Milk and water mixture. And now I'm just gonna mix that all up with clean hands. I'm gonna wash them. It's time to add the flour and the salt. So again, I'm using King Arthur all-purpose flour and just some, this is actually Redmond real salt. It's mined in the USA. I like it. So I need 500 grams of flour and about 10 grams of salt. Now I'm gonna mix it up. So it looks a little bit dry and maybe a little bit like scraggly, but that is because this is gonna rest for an hour and then I'm gonna fold it and then it'll be good for the night. And then in the morning, we will shape it and bake it and it'll be perfect, beautiful bread. If this is the first video of mine that you're watching, I do not use plastic wrap in my house. So whenever I need to cover something with plastic wrap, I always just use a plate. Okay, it's been an hour and now it's time to fold the dough and then it will sit overnight. Hands are just a little bit damp with some water. We're gonna cover it and leave it overnight. Good morning. You can hear my washing machine and my dryer. I think I'm gonna go turn those off. So it is the morning. It is much later than I normally get this all started, but we had kind of a slow morning. It is also the first day of 2021, so Happy New Year to everybody. I am just wiping down the counter, getting it ready to shape our dough. I'm just using a little bit of water and cloth, just making sure there's no crumbs or weirdness on the counter. We see my very fabulous pajama pants. Let me go get the dough. And I'll do a little run through about what we need for shaping and baking. So, first things first, we need to preheat our oven to 450. And then, I know this sheet pan is looking really jank, but it is just well loved. That's all I have to say. And I'm gonna put this in the oven while it's preheating so it gets nice and hot. So I'm doing that because the optimal oven for baking bread is a steam oven, but obviously I don't have a steam oven, I just have a regular oven. So in order to create that steam, we put the sheet pan in the oven, let it get really hot, and then when we put the dough in the oven, I'm gonna throw some ice cubes on that sheet pan and it's gonna create steam and help the bread rise really nicely. The next thing you need is your loaf pan. This is a 4.5 by 8.5 inch loaf pan, and I'm gonna use this both for the final proof and for baking. So let's To get this prepared for the shaped dough, we need to flour a kitchen towel. And I said this in my last, one of my other bread videos, I don't know which one it was, but if you don't have a banneton, which I don't even know if they make bannetons like this shape, so that's why I do it this way, you want to use a towel that is flat in texture. So like there's no fuzziness, it's just like, I don't know if this is linen or just like cotton, flat cloth. I'll show you an example of what you don't want to use. It's like, see how there's like texture on that? Don't want to use that because then it will make it easier for the dough to stick. So as you can see, there's also a rip in this towel, but luckily we only have to use this half because this is a pretty small pan. This is actually a new apron that I got for Christmas, and I love it. I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just gonna put a bunch of flour on this half of the dishcloth and spread it out. Okay, now I'm just gonna place it into the loaf pan, like so. Set it in there and set it aside. Okay, so again, this is a not floured surface. Now it's time to shape our dough, which has risen beautifully. I'm just gonna turn it out. This takes a second, so be patient. If you need to go in there and kind of get it started, that's fine, but just try your hardest not to handle it too much because we want to keep all those bubbles intact. Okay, so I am gonna go this way first. Fold in, and roll. Now we're just gonna build up some surface tension and make it into more of a loaf shape. And doing this also like evens it all out a little bit. So if like it was thicker on one side and thinner on the other, this sort of evens it out because it stretches it. Okay. That looks good. Now, so this is the top. There's a seam underneath from where we rolled it. So we're gonna flip it over like so, and place it carefully into the loaf pan. Cover it, and this is gonna do the final proof for 30 minutes, and then I'll see you the next step. So there's 5 minutes left on the timer for the bread proofing. I actually ended up putting it on top of the oven just because it's a little warmer over there. But I have this little cutting board, and this is gonna make it easier for me to transfer it. So I have here pieces of parchment that I have already used because there's no reason to throw away your parchment paper after only one use, especially when it's bread, because bread doesn't really dirty the parchment like, say, cookies or like a cake might. This is also going to be the first time I'm using my new Lam? I don't really know what the correct pronunciation is. I think it's French, so I think it's Lam, but If I'm an idiot, feel free to let me know in the comments. You definitely don't need one of these. This is for scoring the top of the bread. Prior to getting this for Christmas, I would just use a little paring knife, but the key with the paring knife is that you have to make sure it's really sharp, so sharpen it before scoring, or else it'll like, it won't cut properly and it'll like drag and it's just not. Okay, so she is proofed. I'm gonna go ahead and just lay this over the top like that. Put the cutting board on top. Grab the edges like so. And fit. Ta-da! Now, because we used the same exact pan that we're gonna cook it in, it's already the perfect shape. So all we have to do is carefully lift and place, score it. One of these. Okay, now I've got 8 ice cubes in this mug. I'm gonna pull out this rack with the preheated pan on it. I'm going to place my bread on the top rack. Then I'm going to, very carefully, because you don't want to drop an ice cube on this glass because it will shatter. Just gonna and set my timer for, I'm gonna start at 20 minutes and then check on it. Okay, so I just checked on it after 20 minutes. I have it in there for 5 more minutes, and I actually moved it to the lower shelf. Sorry if you can hear Maple crying because Sam just went outside. But yeah, I took out the sheet pan with the ice cubes on it because there were no more left. They all evaporated. And then I shifted the bread to the bottom shelf to make sure that it gets nice and brown on the bottom. So the bread has been cooling on this wire rack for about an hour. As you can see, I have showered and got myself together a little bit. And it's important that you cool it on a wire rack so the bottom doesn't get like soggy as it's cooling. But now that it's all cool, we can crack it open, see what it looks like on the inside. Ooh. Nice and crusty, but it's still pretty soft. It's not gonna like hurt your teeth or your roof of your mouth or anything. So that was how to make my sourdough sandwich loaf bread. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one.